the right way. Rena Wakama should look at the way of, Mountain of Fire Miracles in the women's basketball team. You cannot have a champion and not want to think that, okay, let me look at this team and then pick 1, 2, 3 players. Even in a situation where she wasn't at the venue where these matches took place, she could have video clips and then look at, the Mountain of Fire team, and that's what we call transition. You must look inwardly. You must also consider the local players, not just, assembling players from abroad. If we do get just the assembly players from abroad, then we do not want to grow sports here in Nigeria. So the best thing to do, if we have to go by the word transition, then she should just look the way of, the Mountain of Fire team and begin to think that she needs 1, 2, 3 players and inject them into the women's senior team.
Well, Rene, welcome. I wasn't spotted anywhere around the venue, but we hope that she will have kept up and, of course, have, people, assessors who are looking at how the girls were playing during this short period that led to the emergence of Mountain of Fire at the 2023 Women Basketball Premier League side here in Nigeria. Enough of basketball, now we'll go to boxing. And in boxing, the Nigerian Boxing Federation has denied claims that it has joined the World Boxing Association, committing their own familiarity to the International Boxing Association. There seems to be some infighting between the various boxing associations. And now the Nigerian Boxing Federation is coming to distance itself from the International Boxing Association.
I think the infighting is about the African body of the Boxing Association having the issue with the World Boxing Association. And I think, the earlier they had to settle all of this. But then the Nigerians are saying, we are not, we're not pledging our loyalty to them. And that's, they want to in solidarity with the African body to say, okay, we're not betraying you. Because if you do that, if Nigeria have to do that, then they are betraying the continental body. And so they've come out, condemning it and, of course, denying it that they are not supporting the world body. They also, stand in the fight with the continental body. But we hope that in the nearest future, they will be able to bring us ensure that the dust, is settled.
When talking about politics in leadership of the Boxing Association, we know that the International Boxing Association was only recently expelled the International Olympic
But
Committee.
again, you can't separate politics and sports. They are interwoven, whether we like it or not. Yes, in most cases, we preach the gospel of saying, okay, you must separate, politics and sports, but you just cannot. It's difficult.
So difficult to separate politics from sports. A lot of people think it's an issue of the teeth and the tongue. They will meet at some point. But for now, the International Olympic Committee, of course, is the world's biggest body, has expelled the International Boxing Association from their activities. And we just hope that if you're not going to compete at the Olympics, what are you into sports for? The Olympic Games is the biggest sporting fiesta around the world.
And that's where my concern is, because the boxers have been training just, a couple of weeks ago. We hear, you and I talked about the boxers, who traveled, for the Olympic qualifiers and all of that. So we want a situation where all of this, would have been settled early enough to avoid distractions to our players and, of course, our boxers and boxers on the continent.
Talking about boxing reminds me of atmosphere of boxing and kickboxing. That's a real boxing event, and of course kickboxing, where we have the Ultimate Fight Championship. Remember, at the weekend we saw Ultimate Championship 294 or so from Nigeria, who suffered a test straight defeat to unbeaten Kamsa Kimaev from Russia, but now fighting for United Arab Emirates. It looks like it was not going to be a night for Kamaru Usman. He lost the first. And of course, on the second round, he tried to came back, but Chimaev,
the third round wasn't
favorable for him.
Well, I feel really bad for Usman Kamaru, but then, sometimes, when you're not prepared for certain fights, I think it's just nice, you let go. He was just contacted 11 days before this fight, and the man who was supposed to, fight his opponent, got injured, and of course, they had to hurriedly look for a replacement, and the replacement was Usman Kamaru. And I felt, can Usman Kamaru do all of this? I listened to the two, fighters when, they were giving it back to each other, and his opponent told him even before the fight that you are a failure, you're sure going to fail again and all of that, and that came to fall. I feel terribly bad. Recently was our own Israel Adesanya, and this time around Israel Adesanya from kickboxing and to UFC has lost about 5 fights, and for Usman Kamaru this is his 3rd fight, and I do think that he has to step back, regroup, and then come back better.
Kamaru losing his 3rd straight fight, and that doesn't look too good for his status in the middleweight category. But that's what it is. I strongly believe that he has to come back to at least make a statement. This is losing 3 fights to 2 fighters in a row.
Back to back against Edward, and this time around to his recent opponent. Not a good one.
Well, not a very good one for Kamaru Usman. He really has to come back and show the stuff that he's made of. No one will expect of him to begin to think of retirement from the sports now. You win some, you lose some.
So at the moment now, we're beginning to detach that Nigerian nightmare from his name. And even for Israel Adesanya, no more style bender.
Well, Nigerian Ultimate Fight Championship fighters are having a really torrid time.
I mean, look at Anthony Joshua.
Well, talking about Anthony Joshua reminds me of the fact that Tyson Fury believes that he would not make the same mistake against Francis Ngannou. Remember, Ngannou and Joshua made some kind of fuse among themselves, and the Cameroonian looks like the man of the moment.
Well, he said, I saw it on TV yesterday when he said that, he doesn't want to make that same mistake Anthony Joshua made against Andy Ruiz Jr. It was a huge mistake, but then, the beauty of it is that Anthony Joshua came back in the rematch and then corrected all of that. And it's not been the best of time for Anthony Joshua, but then let's see what plays out, when he eventually take on his next opponent.
Talking about back-to-back losses, we've seen Anthony Joshua involved in back-to-back losses. But the big man from Cameroon, Francis Ngannou, doesn't look like a man to be knocked out twice.
Let's see what plays out. But then for Anthony Joshua, the beauty of it is that, he got a lesser opponent, in his last fight, and then gradually, building up, his confidence after losing in 3 fights. Not back-to-back in 2 fights, and including the first, a match against Andy Ruiz Jr. So we hope that, Anthony Joshua gets back on track. And then, for Deontay Wilder, I don't know, but let's watch and see. Sometimes, fighting against unknown opponents, could just be banana peels.
Banana peels up in boxing, but we just hope that Anthony Joshua will find a way of coming back, and he has to get a notable opponent to make a statement of his comeback. If not, it looks like a man that will be forgotten soon in heavyweight boxing. And I'm not too sure he's prepared for that. Let's stay away from boxing now and go to Formula One, the fastest business of sports, if you ask me. And it doesn't look too good for Lewis Hamilton. But just before we get to Lewis Hamilton, why it's not looking good for him, let's look at the winner of the United States Grand Prix, Max Verstappen. This is his 15th win this season, with just about 4 more races to the end of the season. We saw him win 15 races last season. Now he's done another 15. And 1 more race, and he will be breaking that record of more wins in a season. In the US, it looks like a familiar ground for him to get his it. But again, is it all Max Verstappen in Formula One? This is
for this particular year, I think, this is his year. And like you reeled out, 15 wins so far, in this particular season. But I strongly feel for, Lewis Hamilton. I don't know. Maybe you saw the race, but I didn't see the race. I only saw that he was actually disqualified. And why should he be disqualified at this point?
I could tell you why.
He was in top position.
Yes, I think Lewis Hamilton actually came second in the race, but 4 hours after he came second, it was announced.
I think he was actually first.
No, it came at 1.8 seconds short of Max Verstappen's timing. But the issue here is that he was disqualified for technical reasons. We understand there's a plank that is on the floor of the car, which is not supposed by measurement used. And so himself and Charles Leclerc, both of them were disqualified 4 hours after the race. And so his second place position was completely taken away from him, ensuring that Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz did come second and third. If the rules are the rules, I'm sure Mercedes knew about this. This plank should not have been by the measurement which it was there. And so for infringing on this technical requirement, he was disqualified.
I think sometimes it may not be deliberate, but then mistakes are part of the game.
It looks like deliberate, because if the engineer should have known that if your plank, on the floor of the car is at a certain level, it increases, gives you an advantage, and that's. I think that was clearly.
Maybe that's something he had used, in a practice session, and didn't.
No, it's a new development coming in from for Mercedes, and that's a clear infringement of, I think, Article 359 or so.
But overall, I think I feel for, Lewis Hamilton, and then this time around, that it seems, he was actually coming second. I hear the third position person had to take, his second position. But then, I hope personally, because I have very soft spot for Lewis Hamilton, given what he has brought, he has done for the sport. But I hope that, the next, Grand Prix will be in Brazil. And then after the Brazil Grand Prix, they'll also be having another one in Abu Dhabi. And after that, they'll also have another final one, same in November, in the US again. So I hope that he gets, do well and ensure that everything, it's put in place, and of course he's also in shape with the right frame of mind going into the next three Grand Prix before the end of the season.
I want to find the race, and going by driver's technicality, he was top notch. He almost could have won the race there, but. It's not about Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton is the same Lewis Hamilton.
It's about the cars.
About the cars, and I think that's why, and it's understandable. Mercedes is doing everything possible to try to elevate the status of the car to such that could bring. But with the car, we've seen that Lewis Hamilton cannot get that first place. He has not won a race this season, and that looks very unlike Lewis Hamilton. If you know him very well, at least he will win a race. But with 4 more races to the end of the season, he's managed to be on the podium.
I think it's
times.
3.
Yes.
3 more races to the end of the season.
So it looks very difficult for Lewis Hamilton, but again, we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that it will turn out right. But man of the moment, Max Verstappen, 15 wins this season, and it looks like he will break his record of 15 last season. And overall, this is his 50th career win in Formula One over a short period of barely 4 years.
Well, I think it's a good one for Max Verstappen. Is a ZA 15 wins so far. Hopefully, the way he's going and the way his cars are, he might, go on, to probably win maybe 2 out of the next remaining, and he probably might even win the next, the last, 3. But then, it won't be nice, that just one man, kept winning everything, all through the season. We just hope that, the likes of Lewis Hamilton will be able to come up. The cars will be in good shape and ensure that he also gets to win something, at least, even if it's just one, to console himself for the year. But for Max Verstappen, thumbs up to him.
Talking about Max Verstappen, another win for him this year. Of course, in the season, he would now surpass the records of Alan Prost, who is 4th on all-time list of number of wins, with 50 wins so far right now.
I think just about 4 or 5 drivers have been able to do what.
Just 4 drivers. So a win for him again. He will now surpass that record. Maybe enter into the 3rd place position on the all-time list. That's quite remarkable for.
Not something anyone wants to pray for. The likes of Lewis, the likes of Michael Schumacher, gone far.
Well, that's what it is. You get your moment. I think for now it is the moment of Max Verstappen of Red Bull is winning. Mentioned to you 15 races, and with just about 3 or 4 races to the end of the season, he definitely will pull off yet another stunt and break another record. Like I mentioned, he had 15 last season, and he's doing so right now. He came from a 6th place position, and to winning a race from the 6th place position doesn't look easy.
Well, like you said, he is the rave of the moment, and of course, it's not really easy, but I think the cars are also aiding him and a bit of experience.
Max Verstappen on Red Bull, 1st place position in the United States Grand Prix. Lando Norris of McLaren in the 2nd place position, aftermath of disqualification of Lewis Hamilton. Carlos Sainz of Ferrari in the 3rd place position. And interestingly, Sergio Perez of Red Bull came 4th, and second driver for Mercedes, George Russell, came 5th, where we have Pierre Gasly of Alpine in the 6th place position. Lance Stroll of Aston Martin was 7th place, and Yuki Tsunoda of AlphaTauri came 8th, while Alex Albon of Williams were in the 9th position. We saw Lega Sargent of Williams aftermath of this race. We have to continue this time in tennis, and American Ben Shelton has won his first ATP Tour title by defeating Alan Skaraslev in the Japan Open, beating the Russian 7-5, 6-1 in 81 minutes in Tokyo. The Americans should be in cloud 9 as we speak.
Well, 21-year-old, and I saw the report. I didn't have all the time, because of my busy schedule to see all of that. But then, it's a good one. When you begin to get all of these, trophies at your early age, it has a way of also, boost your psyche going forward. So I think it's a plus for him.
Let's look at what happened in Stockholm, and that's at the Stockholm Open. Veteran Gabe Moorfield became only the 4th player older than the 37 to win an ATP Tour when he claimed the Orebas Nordic Open courtesy of defeat of Contour 467663. He has now joined the big boys. Roger Federer, Ivan Kolovic, and Felicia Lopez achieving this feat.
Well, a plus is a veteran, and of course, it didn't come to me as a surprise when I saw the report. And ending the season, the year with this kind of win, I think it's a plus for the likes of the fact that he has also registered his name alongside with the likes of Roger Federer, Ivo Kalovic, and the rest.
Talking about the interesting development, these tennis players are looking out for points to see whether they will be among the top 8 that will be
at
part
the Australian Open.
No, just the all-season, end-of-season championship.
Yeah, but again, it's also ahead of the Australian Open too. Well, you must be able to garner, reasonable points.
Well, talking about the Australian Open, that will be the first Grand Slam for next year. And it comes up in January. But for now, all the tennis players around the world are looking at garnering points to stay within the top 8 that will qualify the end-of-season championship. Time for us to take our break. And when we return from the break, we'll go into the ever-busy world of football and see how Manchester City is returning to winning ways. But back down here in Nigeria, it looks like Enyimba will just make content with just $1 million aftermath of their participation in the African Football League. Details when we return from the break.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Welcome back. Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network, and we're into football. And talk about football, the only way we can delight Sarah Davis is start with women football. And 60 million naira is at stake at a pre-season tournament, and it will feature Edo Queens in early clash with Niger Rattles of Abuja. This is really, really big. In the Benin City today, this pre-season tournament will get underway, and it's courtesy of the wife of the governor of Edo State.
Well, I think, it's looking pretty good for the women. 60 million naira. That's huge, just like a pre-season tournament for 60 million naira. That's a plus. I mean, a huge one. And thumbs up needs to go to the wife of the Edo State, governor. But then, probably in the years to come, when I become the first lady or even the governor of a state, I'll have to double that amount to maybe 120 million naira for the women. But then, it's a plus that we must, commend the wife of the Edo State governor for doing that. I mean, the women's game have been one game that, haven't had, good blueprint from the organizers, those who man, football here in our country. That's the NFF. So I think it's a plus one. 60 million to the women. It's a competition that has entered its third season. 13 teams are going to be in action, and of course they're going to be making use of about 3 facilities: the Samuel Ogbe Media Stadium, the University of Benin, one of the facilities there, and of course another facility. But I'm not happy that we're not going to be seeing our darling team at Rivers Angels in action. But then for the teams that will be there, we hope that the right thing is done. Officiating is fair. We don't want a situation where it will be hosting and winning and all of that. So we hope that the officials that will be in charge of this particular competition will also use this competition to sell themselves in good light.
Talking about 60 billion in female football, not just in the competition proper, but it's a pre-season tournament. It is quite laudable of the wife of the governor of Edo State, which were other women in top position will encourage female football the way we've seen in Benin City. So 13 teams definitely will light up the city of Benin from today ahead of the big prize money. Away from female football now, let's look at the National League. The Chief Operating Officer of the National League here in Nigeria, Dr. Ayo Abdul Rahman, is complaining about there's a late registration coming from players from the teams. Most of the teams that are scheduled to be part of the National League here in Nigeria are yet to ensure that all requirements are completed.
Well, we've seen, this lateness, this lateness from teams, over the years. And I've always said, if you have just 10 teams who have done the right thing, right on. And that's when, we'll see more competition in our league. If you're going to be having less than the number, expected that have done the needful, go ahead. And I think that's exactly what they should do. We've seen clubs, we've seen leagues, in other countries. Look at the League One. They are not up to 20 teams in the league. And so if you're not getting, if the teams are not doing the right thing, you just kick off. You have a date. Set your target, set the timeline, the deadline, and anything that meets the deadline, you run with that.
Well, it's only professional if you have to play the league to ensure that you do registration at as when due, and this will help the organizers of the league to get it underway. The Nigerian National League gets underway this weekend, and we understand Lagos sides will be you to take on Dakada FC in the opener for the Nigerian League. And if we have just about 7 days or so to the kickoff of the league for 2023-2024 season, and some of the clubs are yet to register, it only shows lack of professionalism, which should not be emulated, especially when you're looking forward to playing top-level football.
I really do think that it is the NNL that should show the top flight the way to go, because that's a bedrock of the senior division. So if they can do the right thing, I think it will set, it will come as precedent to the top league itself.
While the National League gets underway this weekend, the Premier League here in Nigeria has been on in the last 3 weeks, and we've seen results of some of the matches that were played at the weekend. Niger Tornadoes playing in Mina beat Bayelsa United by 1-0. Bayelsa, not seeing you getting it right so far this season.
Quite unfortunate. We had an abridged season last season, and we felt, they started well, though, towards the end of the abridged season, they were not fantastic. And this time around, when we feel that, okay, start early to bed, early to rise, and they are not doing all of that. Just last weekend, they were being hammered by Sporting. They were being hammered by Remo Stars 2-0 in their home turf. And then this time around, moving away, they are not getting the result. I think it's not a good sign for our neighbors, Bayelsa.
Back-to-back defeat for Bayelsa United in the Nigerian Premier League. Gombe United beat Insurance by 1-0. This one took place at the Pantami Stadium in Gombe. While we saw Lobby Stars, one of the teams showing their strength so far this season, beating Abia Warriors by 2-0.
Well, it's not just this season. Last season, too, they showed their strength. I think they finished tied on same point with the second position team in that particular group. So, they've always been a good side, and the last season wasn't that exceptional, and they started well this season too.
Talking about Lobby Stars with Abia Warriors, that match was supposed to be played on Saturday. They had to replay it yesterday, owing to a series of bank robbery in a city very close to the venue of this encounter. We understand about 5 bank robberies took place at the same time, and that led to this match being postponed by a day.
Well, most times, we have to first, look at the security of those players, and I'm sure that's what the organizers, did, and we have to give them thumbs up, securing the lives of those players, before, even if it means, shifting the match to Monday being today, as long as, you're doing all of this, just to keep, just to ensure that the players are safe, the venue is safe, and all of that, I think is a good one.
Over the weekend, there were 2 score draws in the Nigerian Premier League. Hadland FC played at a 1-1 draw with Katsina United. This match took place in Owerri. It looks like Hadland dropping points at home too early in the season.
Too early in the season, Hadland dropping points, It is one club aside Rivers United that I really have, soft spot for. And of course, not just because, they are traditional, side, a traditional side here in Nigeria, but the fact that I've also got to, benefit from them. So it's one club I've always traveled from Port Harcourt, to cover their matches, and it's not the best of news I want to hear. Right now, I think they are beginning to get, that support from the state government, and I think, they should also justify the fact that, they are beginning to get that support.
Looking out for the second score draw we had at the weekend, play in Lorry. Rangers forced Kwara United to 1-0. Rangers looking like a team that travel well.
Wow, this season has been fantastic, for Rangers. Now, 4 matches so far this season, and of course, it's not been a bad one for them. Last weekend, there was a week before last, and they also traveled, and of course, they were able to get a draw. And it looks like, all their away fixtures have been draw. They've not been a bad one. It's been a decent one. If you're beginning to get results from your away victories, and then you come home, consolidate on your home ground, make it a slaughter ground for yourself, I think before the end of the season they might just contend for continental glory.
Talking about draw at the weekend in the Nigerian Premier League, we saw one at the Eke Township Stadium. Aqua United played a goalless draw with Shooting Stars of Ibadan. Aqua United have to move their venue, maybe because of congestion of fixtures at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium, and playing in their first game at the Eke Township Stadium. I've been to that stadium, quite a beautiful edifice. They couldn't make advantage of the stadium count as 3
Aqua United themselves have been struggling this season. I mean,
they've played 4 games and never won any.
But over the years, we've also seen them, start, poorly, and then, as the season.
No, but they have a new coach.
But I do think that Fatayo Show, the new coach of the side, is also struggling with this. And I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons they want to try, another stadium to see if they can be getting results there. I'm not sure it is because of, the congestion fixture, the fact that we have one of our teams, playing on the continent there and all of that. I think they want to try another stadium to see that, to see if they can begin to get luck from that stadium. Like I said, the Eket Stadium is a fantastic edifice, but then, I should think that, you stay at home and then, begin to see that, the players also, acclimatize. But then, one thing seems not to be working for Aqua United, the fact that every season in, season out, they've done it and it's not so good. You cannot, overhaul your entire team every season. Every season you find out that Aqua United, they do away with almost 20 players and then they bring in more players. I think that's where, Fatayo Show is struggling. It's not about the coach. He's a fantastic coach. One of the best we have in the land. We saw his input while he was here in River State. But then, I do think that maybe as the season wears on, given that that's what happens to Aqua United, as the season wears on, they will do well. But it's always nice to start to pick your points, as the season starts.
One team that is picking points as the season starts is Plateau United. They beat Sunshine Stars by 1-0. They don't drop points in Jos.
Well, you don't just drop points in Jos. A lot of factors, also, associated to the wins and Jos. But I think, things have changed. I mean, not those, factors we know yesterday. If it were those factors we know yesterday, a lot of teams, would have gotten, victories on the road and even at home. But then, things have really changed. We have to give thumbs up to this particular IMC. Even the referees themselves, are no longer compromising and all of that. So we hope to see, fair officiating in the league, because it is the referees and the coaches, that change the face of the game.
Talking about actions at the weekend in the Nigerian Premier League, Remo Stars beat Sporting Lagos by 2-1. Fast, having the...
I knew it was going to be a tough one, because Sporting Lagos, you look at, what they did in the preseason, where that massive, preseason where they won, the prize money. And aside that, they've been doing pretty well. And then you also look at the Remo Stars, that are fantastic. And if you ask me, here in Nigeria, if there's one team, yes, truth is bitter. I'm not saying that my team is not doing well, but if there's any team that is running their league, their club, professionally, it has to be Remo Stars. They got, young players and all of that. So I knew it was going to be a tough one for Sporting Lagos and even Remo Stars. Thank God it ended, in a barren draw. That tells you the intensity of the game.
Remo Stars fast emerging as the champion of the West in Premier League football. We've seen them struggle over 3 years of Ibadan. Now Sporting Lagos as well. So we say congratulations to Remo Stars. And talking about Sierra's team not doing well, that must be Rivers United. Rivers United capitulated again at the travel to Kano. Kano Pillars beat them by 1-0. And it looks like they are poor travelers as well. Talking about the way...
Not just poor travelers. I think we've struggled, so far. You may not understand when Cyril says Sierra's team is Rivers United. That's my team. And I do think that, we're struggling at the moment. And I think one of the reasons why we're struggling, we've had just 1 win in 4 matches. One of the reasons I think we're struggling is the fact that we've not been able to get the likes of, the Ubedurus that left the team, last season. So by the time this team gels, I think, we will do well, but not so good so far. 4 matches and just 1 win in 4 matches.
Very bad one for a Nigerian team that is at the continent, if you remember.
4 matches, 1 win, 2 draws, and 1 loss.
That's not a very good statistics to reel out for Rivers United, but again, We'll see how it pans out. They are still in the CAF Confederations Cup, and aftermath of qualification for the group stage, let's see whether they will survive that group stage. We're talking about a team that their survival in the quarterfinals of this year's inaugural African Football League is Enyimba International. It looks like their survival is on the brink because they played at the Gospel Aquabio Stadium yesterday, last night. We saw them lose by 1-0. An early penalty in the first half. They could not come back to it, and with the support of the locals at the stadium there, it looks like Enyimba might just not qualify from the quarterfinal stage, and that's not too good enough for a team. A lot of people believe should be able to do better than that, especially playing at home.
Well, Cyril, I beg to disagree. I beg to agree with you, and I want to think that, you're trying to downplay the situation. It's obvious. I mean, it's the end of the road. I do not know. I do not see how Enyimba will go all the way to, Wydad and then, get a result against Wydad. We saw that penalty. And, of course, football has gone, beyond what it used to be. We saw the VAR and all of that. I do think that, one of the problems Enyimba is having is the fact that they do not have, a chairman who knows the terrain. I have from the inception faulted the appointment of Kanu Nwankwo as the chairman of the club. The reason is simple. He knows less about, the African Football League. I think what they should have done is keep Ayan Siago, constitute a board, keep Ayan Siago still as the chairman of the club, then allow Kanu Nwankwo to understudy him, after which, maybe after 1 or 2 seasons, then you can now, automatically make Kanu Nwankwo the chairman of the. But I also don't think that another thing that is working against, the club is luck, and of course the coaches, inability to also read game. Look at a player like, Bellingham. He is a midfielder, but look at what Carlo Ancelotti has done with that player. He seems to be one of the greatest attacking, players in the world today. So if a coach cannot read the game and then change his tactics, while the game is on, he will have himself to blame. If you look at the statistics, it went in favor of Enyimba, but they couldn't just convert their chances, and that was how they lost in the CAF Champions League when they played, in their home turf. So I do think that the coach will have to work on himself, and of course also work on the team. It's bad luck. Look at how much they would have gotten, but then they still have some money, like you said, about the $1 million. That's they are going to be having less than $1 million, about 900 and something. And the state government to even sponsor them for the next 2 seasons, and then winning it, they would have been costing close to reasonably 5-6 billion. That would have given them about $4 million. But unfortunately for them, this is the situation they find themselves, and I do not think they will be able to get a result against Wydad. But then let us stay positive, because no 2 games can be said to be the same. On that day, it might be a bad day in office for Wydad, and then Enyimba might just coast all through, winning them 2-0. Let's just stay positive.
Enyimba qualifying for the African Football League for the very first time, and of course at this inaugural edition, courtesy of their 2 times win of the CAF Champions League. Remember, in 2003 and 2004, they had a lot of money then too, over $1 million. But they didn't. For me, they didn't really utilize that money, to revamp the club and re-inject for quality players as well. And so the team continued to catapult. Since then, they've not been able to get to the crucial stages of the CAF Champions League, and they're giving this as opportunity of making another $1 million. I'm very sure they shouldn't have let it be the way we are seeing it now, because it's completely difficult to go to Morocco and get a result against, almost a team of the moment in African football, Wydad Casablanca. It's very difficult. We know their formation. We've seen them play in Nigeria before. They come to contain you, and when they go back home, they dispatch you. That's what happened to Rivers United, if you remember, with this same Wydad Casablanca at the same stadium. I watched that encounter, and it looks difficult how Enyimba can come back. Talking about management of the club side, we've seen Nyasi, get his job done. Maybe someone else will try, but it would take some time.
But I like the fact that there was a VAR there, so we don't have to go back to those days in Israel where everything happens in African football.
It's the African Football League, 10 million naira.
Because if it were to be the African football of yesterday when we didn't have the VAR, that penalty wouldn't have been given. Some politics would have been played. I am not happy that my own team, a team from Nigeria, lost. But then I am happy that the right thing is being done, and that's the only way to shape our football and get our players on track, get our coaches, our administrators, everybody on track.
Well, we saw the first game of the competition get underway at the weekend with Ahali playing out a 2-2 draw with Simba of Tanzania. That match had the compliments of FIFA President Gianni Infantino in attendance, and Arsene Wenger, Chief Football Development Officer of FIFA, was at that venue. He actually unveiled the trophy for the competition.
Well, that's a plus, and having the likes of Arsene Wenger, and of course
very high FIFA
the world's football supremo at that event. It shows that for me that was the height of it. Having these two heavyweights at the event, and of course it ended in a 2-2 draw between the Tanzanian side and of course the other team.
Well, we seem to see North African side getting the better of their opponents in this competition. On our program, Sports Extraordinary, at 6 p.m. Nigerian time, we'll take a review of all the matches that have been played so far. The return leg fixtures comes up on Tuesday and Wednesday in the African Football League, and it promises to be very, very, thrilling, because you move from that one and you get the next amount of money, which it gets you into the semi-final of the competition. It's a two-legged affair, and you win it and you graduate to 1.5 million. 1.5 million, you graduate to 3 million. And then from 3 million, which is a runner-up fee, you have 4 million US dollars. And talking about 4 million reminds me, that's the money you get for winning the CAF Champions League.
Well, that's huge, I talked about the fact that, our own Ayimba may not be able to. I talked about, I had real doubt, how much that will be when converted to Naira. And on a normal day, even Nigerian team had gone all the way, to winning this maiden edition. I'm sure in the next 6 years, they wouldn't have even been looking the way of the government. But then, it's unfortunate, and I don't know. Let's not, just conclude that it's unfortunate. Like I said, football is like biscuit. No two games can be said to be the same. And they say everything is possible in football. Let's just be positive and hope that, even if we don't get to the finals, we do see our own Ayimba getting to probably, get out of the semi-finals or qualify into the semi-finals and boost, the amounts they'll be getting.
It's football, you can never be sure of a result until 90 minutes plus added time. The Ayimba still have a chance. Can they get that chance?
A slim chance, anyway.
Very slim chance, I must say. Meanwhile, we'll go to the Premiership in England. After the return of, after the international break, all the leagues in Europe have returned, and we'll take a look first at what's happening in the Premiership in England. In the very first game, we saw Aston Villa who mailed West Ham by 4-1.
That was a big win for Aston Villa. I didn't see it coming, even though I'm not saying that, West Ham, are a very big side. But then, they've been able to hold their own in the last couple of games. They've played even, in the league and, beyond, the league in other competitions. But I didn't see that one coming. It's a plus for them.
And Mary, the coach of Aston Villa, having 11 consecutive home win for his side there. And I think they are riding very high. I'm talking about one of the matches that did lead up the weekend in the Premiership in England. They had to do the match at Stamford Bridge between Chelsea and Arsenal. It looks like Chelsea was going to coast home with this one until about 13 minutes to the end of the encounter, when there was a beautiful strike coming from, off the mistake of the Chelsea goalkeeper, and Declan Rice took the opportunity to score the first one. And before the end of 90 minutes, the second one did come as well, with Arsenal forcing a 2-2 draw at the Stamford Bridge.
Well, mistakes are part of the game, and that's what, happened. And Declan Rice had to take advantage of that, a mistake, and then, scoring for Arsenal. But then, I was pretty happy for, Chelsea. Yes, I have soft spot for Arsenal themselves, but then, I was really, really happy for Chelsea. I thought, they were beginning to get, their mojo. They are beginning to, get some confidence. And if that game had ended in a 2-0, that would have been the turning point for the Chelsea side. That would have been a morale boost, and of course, it would have been the real turning point for them to win. But then, Arsenal, a dogged side, took advantage of the fact that, this, wasn't, a complete team, and then, equalized, and ran away with a draw. I think that if Chelsea had played what they played against Arsenal to a Manchester City side, they would have considered that like even 5-0.
Well, looking at the other fixture at the weekend in the Premiership in England, Liverpool beat Everton by 2-0. And this was the 201 goal in the Premiership for 146 goals, and overall 201 for Mo Salah. Mo Salah continued to make records for Liverpool.
Well, he was, the man who changed things around for them on the day. So Even the coach himself, has come out, giving him thumbs up for that.
And talking about Liverpool beating Everton, it looks like they will continue to beat them because in the last 15 games, Liverpool have always had the better.
Always a derby where the two sides play, and always a tough one. But then Liverpool have always had, an upper hand where the two sides, meet.
Brentford beat Burnley by 3-0. We saw Manchester City return to winning ways after 2 consecutive losses. They beat Brighton by 2-1. And talking about Manchester City, this is their 21st consecutive home win in the Premiership in England, in all competition this season. No team in the Premiership has had that kind of record. 21 consecutive home wins in all competitions.
Well, they keep setting records, but one man, who seem not to be on fire again is Alang. I think in the last 3-4 matches, he hasn't been able to score, but he was on the score sheet at the weekend. For Manchester City, like I said earlier, they will keep, breaking records. They are a complete team. On the bench, the first 11 and even at their bench.
Meanwhile, Newcastle beat Crystal Palace by 4-0. Nottingham Forest beat played a 2-2 draw with Luton. And Manchester United did honour Sir Bobby Charlton with a 2-1 win over Sheffield United. Bobby Charlton, what has been described as giant of football, passed on at the weekend.
Well, that's one match that I had my sight on, probably based on the fact that we had one legend of Manchester United who passed on. He won the European Cup. He also won the World Cup with with England. He's done pretty well. He died at the age of 86, and of course they had to honor him because he's one of Manchester United's greatest legends. And what more can we say from this end?
Let's
rest in peace.
Quickly try to push up because we have to round up now. And Rayo Vallecano beat Palmas at the way 1-0, and we saw Girona beat Almeria by 5-2. Girona, surprisingly, is joint top winners at the La Liga as we speak.
Surprises this season, not just in the La Liga. It's also happening in the League One, where, of course, teams that you never expect, are the ones, at the top of the summits. One
spectacular result we saw at the weekend in La Liga was a match between Barcelona and Atletico Bilbao. The Bilbao lost by 1-0. And we saw a player, Magui, who came on under 30 minutes or so, scored the goal at the age of 17 years and about 280. He's looking out now to be, the youngest goal scorer for FC Barcelona in the 21st century. 17 years of age, and under 30 minutes, he just came in as a substitute. And we know that Lewandowski and the other top players for Barcelona are injured, and he came and did the job.
And what a way to go. I was actually expecting the other young man in Real Madrid to also, get his name registered on the score sheet. But I think, it's a plus, for the young man, 17 years of age, and then scoring, for his side.
Real Madrid dropped points at the weekend because Sevilla...
but then, can we even begin to, get, young players in our league?
Well, they are young players. It depends on the vision.
But we haven't been able to get, a player of 16, 17 years in any of our clubs here in Nigeria.
Yeah, well, we have to check that one. Our Getafe player 1-0 draw with Real Betis, and we saw Osasuna beat Grenada by 2-0. In the Italian Serie A, Inter Milan continue to dominate fixtures because they beat the opponent by 1-0 at the weekend. And the one match a lot of people kept their eye on, I talk about Inter Milan. They beat Torino by 3-0. And
very comfortable at the summit of the league.
They are just very comfortable. That's the word to use there. Then we saw AC Milan playing at home lose to Juventus. And something interesting, Lunatelli, the man who scored when he was playing for a couple of years ago, he played for Juventus. He scored the only goal against AC Milan, and now playing for Milan, scored the only goal. For Juventus, scored the only goal against Milan. And it looks like he's more man that if he plays for his clubs, I'm sure he's going to score the only goal that will cause you to win the game.
So every other club, that he has played for should be wary of him whenever he's playing against them. But I think, for the old ladies, they seem to be struggling from last season when they had, points, deducted, based on, some financial fair play rules against them and all of that. This is not the Juventus we used to know. They have been in the local, champions, and I hope to see them, back, very close to the summit or at the summit of the Serie A.
Well, we don't have much time left with us, but I'm very sure that on our program, Sports Extra at 6 p.m., we'll take a complete review of all the top leagues around Europe. But in Germany, it looks like Bayern Leverkusen continue to dominate in that top position. Bayern Leverkusen, not Bayern Munich. Yes,
things have to change.
So things are changing across the league in Germany especially. That will be it for this edition of Sports Talk. We'll return back, like I said, by 6 p.m. for Sports Extraordinary. Until then, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Always enjoy here on Atlantic Television Network.